What's up, everybody? I'm James Withy, and today we're going to talk about the therapeutic benefits of getting a tattoo. All right, so like I said in the intro, today's video is going to be all about like the therapeutic benefits of tattoo sessions and why a lot of clients consider their tattoo sessions to be like therapy. Earlier in my career, I feel like I used to see like a lot of Instagram posts from clients, or like, I don't know, back when Facebook was popping, it was like a lot of people making little posts like, oh, it's 5 days until my tattoo session. I can't wait until I get my tattoo therapy or whatever. And I used to just kind of like brush it off, thinking that it was more of like a joke or something like that, maybe even like poking fun at how good they sit for tattoos and how it's an enjoyable experience for them, rather than it being like something that's really painful that they're dreading. But the further I get into my career, the more I realize that a lot of them actually truly do consider it to be a therapeutic thing, getting a tattoo. And in this video, we're going to go ahead and examine the reasons why I believe it is therapeutic for a lot of people, clients and artists included. So with that said, quick disclaimer, I am by no means claiming that tattooers are qualified to be like helping people with their mental health issues or whatever. And, we're definitely not therapists by any means in like a general sense or in a clinical sense. But what I am talking about in this video is why some clients think that it is therapeutic to get a tattoo. All right, so the first reason I'm going to talk about for why I think a lot of clients do think that it is therapeutic to get a tattoo is something that's like purely just speculation on my part, right? But what I believe is that part of the reason why a tattoo can be therapeutic for a lot of people is because when you get a tattoo, it's one of the only times when you are truly forced to be present in the moment and sit there with yourself for a long period of time, not really doing anything at all. And, a lot of this kind of comes down to like what meditation is. And, a lot of what I've gathered as far as what meditation is from my own studies and my own like dabbling with that sort of thing is that a lot of it is just kind of having a moment where you can give your mind a break from thinking all the time. And the main way that people do that is by sitting still and focusing on their breathing. And when you get a tattoo, coincidentally, you are doing exactly that. So you're sitting there for a long period of time, you've got the needle in the skin, it hurts, and you are forced to exercise the maximum amount of like self-control that you can muster to prevent yourself from moving and, ultimately messing up the aesthetic of your tattoo. So there is an element of like having to sit still and be present in the moment that I think makes tattooing somewhat akin to like a meditative type of state. Because especially like when you're really, really deep into a tattoo session and you're like 4 hours in, 5 hours in or something, and it really starts hurting much more than it does in the beginning, you almost have to get into like that Zen type of zone to be able to push through the rest of the session. And the only way to do that is by focusing on your breathing and really clearing your mind of all those like worrisome thoughts that are circling around like concern and like anxiety in your brain. Another interesting thing to talk about when it comes to being present in the moment while you're getting your tattoo and kind of stripping your thought process down to a more like basic state, so to speak, is that tattoos kind of force you to put things in perspective in terms of what's going on in your life and what's going on right now in this moment. And what I mean by that is like when you get a tattoo, a lot of the thoughts that like will fly around your head, or at least the thoughts that fly around my head, are like, oh shit, this hurts, this sucks, can I handle this, can I do this? And ultimately that thought process starts to move towards a place where I have to ask myself the question like, okay, well, is this really the worst thing in the world? Is this the end of the world? Does this pain that I'm feeling right now, is it significant enough to freak out over? Because ultimately, all that's happening is that the surface of your skin is just barely getting poked by a needle, albeit, many, many times, hundreds of times per second, and it's painful. but really like nothing bad is going to happen to you, and you're not going to die from this. I mean, most likely, unless you got like a crazy like MRSA infection or something, but you're not going to die from this. The pain that you're feeling during a tattoo session most likely isn't the worst pain you've ever felt in your entire life. And I feel like during a session, the tattoo pain forces you to kind of come to terms with that and start like putting your life into perspective in terms of what's important and what's not, and what your definition of suffering is, and why you might put yourself through that sort of pain, and like ultimately why you're getting the tattoo in the first place. And all those sort of questions in my mind when I'm getting tattooed start to lead towards like an existential place, and I feel like I start gaining some perspective on like what's currently going on in my life and what's important and what's not as a result. So that's kind of like the physical aspect of why a tattoo session can be somewhat therapeutic for people. But I feel like that might even be like the smaller part of it. And the bigger part is actually just having somebody that you can talk to for a long period of time that isn't like biased because they're in your life, so to speak. But yeah, having somebody to talk to for a long period of time that is totally impartial and is there to just listen. Because, I mean, let's face it, when we're there for a tattoo session that is 6 hours, 8 hours, maybe even longer, I'm stuck there too as the tattooer. So we're just kind of in it together. And I feel like the conversations that happen between two people like that, oftentimes can be very different from the conversations that you would have with somebody like in your regular life. And what I mean by that is like, I don't know, try to think of a situation where you are talking to somebody who's pretty much like a stranger. Like, let's say it's your first tattoo session or whatever, and you come in and you have an 8-hour session with somebody. Try to think of a time when you're going to be talking to an absolute stranger for that long of a period of time straight, and in a setting where there really isn't any like judgment or anything or any risk in talking to them. Because let's face it, like tattoo shops, we can pretty much talk about whatever we want, and there's no fear of like, oh shit, you're gonna get fired because you're talking to your coworker that's in the cubicle next to you about these sort of things. There's no judgment where you're talking to somebody that you already know very well about what's going on in your life from this very general perspective, where you're kind of like summing everything up and packaging it in a way where it forces you to kind of zoom out and zoom in on the perspective of understanding what your current life circumstances are. That could be like a spouse or somebody like that, or I don't know, like a close friend or something. Talking to them is definitely beneficial, obviously, for its own reasons. But sometimes it's also beneficial to be able to talk to somebody that's like a totally, like a fresh person that you can speak with, that isn't going to judge you and doesn't really know a whole lot about you, and isn't going to carry that sort of like baggage into the conversation. You can talk to your tattooer very candidly about whatever you want and explain yourself in a very raw type of way. And I feel like that's a situation that doesn't occur very often in the natural world. And not only that, but I feel like as the sessions go on, like let's say you're getting like a multiple session piece, typically they're going to be scheduled, a couple of weeks or like a month or something like that, a couple of months apart. So it almost becomes this thing that is like, going to a therapist, where you're coming in and checking in with your tattoo artist once a month for this 8-hour session while you're getting your sleeve worked on or whatever. And every single time that my clients come in, I enjoy, talking to them about what's, like new in their life or whatever, or we'll like start to reopen other issues that we've talked about in the past, where they're talking about a problem that they had with this, and then I'll see them in a month and I'll be asking them about how they ended up dealing with it or resolving it, or whether or not it's still going on. When in the first session, maybe I've like given them some advice on, maybe how to handle it, or like how to cope with it or whatever emotionally, like things they have going on. And then it's pretty tight sometimes to be able to come in the next time and hear about like a little update on what's happening with that specific part of their life. And I feel like people, they enjoy doing that. They enjoy telling me about those sort of things, and I enjoy hearing about them. And it's one of those things where the more sessions that go on, it almost is like that therapy type of thing, where we're almost like working on them. And I mean, me too. Shit, I got a lot of stuff going on in my life that I'm talking to them about constantly. So we're like working on each other and like using each other as like a sounding board for like, am I fucking crazy? Like, is everything all right in my fucking life right now? What do you think about this? And because me and my clients often come from such different walks of life, it is really beneficial to get a perspective from somebody, like I said earlier, that is impartial and doesn't really have a whole lot invested in like the outcome of whatever situation you're in or what's going on in your life or whatever. They're just giving advice from a totally fresh perspective. And speaking of different perspectives, I feel like tattooers are really great people to talk to about your life circumstance and what's going on with you, because they do offer like a viewpoint that is going to be quite different from the average person, in my opinion. And that's because, you know, we come from all different walks of life. If you ask 10 tattooers, you know, how they grew up and how they got into tattooing and like what their life story is, you're going to get 10 different stories that, you know, vastly differ from each other. And because we live so far outside of the status quo in terms of like our lifestyle and the way that we think, I feel like it is like really beneficial to talk to us about what's going on in your life, just to give a fresh perspective that is going to be something very different from what you might get in your normal like social circle or whatever. And I think I mentioned it earlier a little bit, but I feel like another reason why people feel safe talking to tattooers and can kind of express themselves and open up a little bit more is because tattoo shops really are like, they are a safe place. Like it's one of the last few like, what do you call them? What is the word for it that I'm looking for? Safe havens. It's like one of the last few little safe havens for realness and honesty is a tattoo shop. It's like, you know, you see Dave Chappelle or whatever on the TV and he jokes about how comedians are some of the last people that can truly be themselves and say what they're actually thinking. I feel like tattooers in tattoo shops, that environment, it's pretty much the same sort of thing going on, where you truly can like be yourself in a tattoo shop and nobody's gonna fucking judge you. And even if we did judge you, it doesn't really matter because there's no like consequences, you know, like it's not like HR is gonna come tapping on your shoulder and tell you that you gotta pack your shit up and be out of the office by Monday or whatever because you said something that was offensive or, you know, crossed the line talking about a certain topic, whether it's political or religious or whatever. You know, tattoo shops, at least in my experience, are very, very loosey-goosey in terms of like what we are willing to discuss and what we aren't willing to discuss. And it's very unlikely that you're gonna get a tattooer that you're gonna talk to about some random obscure problem that's embarrassing for you or whatever that's going to look at you and be like, I don't feel comfortable talking about that. So it really is similar to a therapeutic setting in that sense, to where you can discuss just about anything in a tattoo shop and people really aren't going to give you weird looks. If anything, they're going to fucking just joke around with you about it, and you know, it's going to turn into a lighthearted and humorous conversation. And sometimes that's what people need, especially when they're talking about things that are kind of strange and you know, not really the type of conversations that are encouraged out there in the regular world. But definitely, I feel like clients do feel like it's a safe space where they can say whatever they want to me. And you know, I really don't have a lot of judgment. You want to talk about your kids and you know, tell me which one is your favorite one or whatever. I'm not going to judge you for having a favorite. You want to talk about what's going on in your love life and you know, complain to me about fucking how you caught an STD or whatever and you have to take antibiotics to get rid of that chlamydia or whatever, like, fuck it, I'm gonna talk about the clap too. We'll have a whole discussion about this shit, you know? So yeah, definitely you can talk about, you know, most things in a tattoo shop and you're not gonna be judged. You know, there's very few topics that are off limits. I feel like maybe the only thing is that's like a major difference is that, you know, obviously aside from the clinical experience that a therapist is gonna have and the expertise they're gonna have in helping you understand your emotional issues, but basically the biggest difference is that in a tattoo shop, you're probably not going to be able to just like totally unload emotionally and, you know, break down crying about things because obviously that's going to make it harder for the tattooer to do their job and might disturb other people at the shop. But I mean, even that kind of happens sometimes. Like I tattooed a portrait on a guy's arm one time of his mother that had died. And we talked about her the whole time, like during our tattoo session. And, you know, he talked about his relationship with her, which a lot of it was very rocky. And a lot of that stuff he came to terms with during that tattoo. And when he was done getting it, he looked at the picture of the tattoo on his arm, the image of the tattoo on his arm. And, you know, he started crying because it looked so much like her. And it was like a conclusion to all the different things that we had talked about during the session. And he gave me a hug. So, you know, obviously I didn't judge him for that. I thought it was a cool moment myself. But that doesn't happen very often in tattoo shops. And I feel like that situation was a special one to where it didn't really like feel weird to me at all. But yeah, definitely it does go both ways too. Like I said earlier in the video, I feel like I get a lot of benefit from talking to my clients, especially the multiple session clients that are coming back month after month. they learn quite a bit about me and my life throughout our time together. And it feels good to be able to talk to them, like I said earlier, and get like an impartial viewpoint on what's going on with me and how I'm handling all the different things that I'm going through. And, that applies to both bad stuff that's going on in my life and good stuff that's going on in my life. And it's healthy to discuss all those things. And I'm really appreciative of my clients that get to know me very well, because a lot of them end up becoming friends with me. Some of them I even hang out with outside of work that I don't even tattoo anymore, because they already have like back pieces and all this, like giant amount of tattoos from me or whatever. And there's only so much skin that somebody has, So yeah, I definitely appreciate all my clients. If any of you guys are watching this video and, we've talked about some crazy shit and some deep shit, I appreciate you for being somebody that can listen to me and that I can talk to. And I hope that I've done a good job of reciprocating and giving you good advice and, valuable perspectives on what's going on in your life. So if you are watching this video and you are thinking that, maybe you need somebody to talk to, maybe consider going and getting a fucking tattoo, because definitely in a lot of cases it can be cheaper than therapy, and you have the added benefit of having the artwork in addition to talking to a therapist, but take that advice with a grain of salt. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm not saying that tattoo artists are qualified professionals to help you deal with mental health issues. But if all you really need is for somebody to listen to you and give you a fresh perspective, then that could be an added benefit of going and getting a tattoo from somebody. So if you guys have any additional commentary on this subject right here, or if you guys feel the same, or if you feel different for whatever reason, go ahead and leave that stuff in the comments below, and I'll try to reply to as many comments as I can and add to the discussion however I can. So thanks for watching, and have a nice day. So actually there is one more important thing that I want to mention, and that is that this video right here is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community that has thousands of different classes for creators that are looking to explore new skills, or maybe beef up their knowledge in a specific creative discipline. They have a really good variety of classes on there that I think are gonna be beneficial to not only some of my viewers out there that might wanna learn new skills, but also to myself, because I feel like a lot of the stuff they offer is directly related to the creative stuff that I do. So examples of that might be film, illustration, fine art. They teach you how to draw on there, teach you how to paint on there. And one of the classes that I checked out while I was browsing around their site that I thought would be really beneficial for people that are looking to learn how to tattoo, or maybe even people that already tattoo, was a class that was called Start Drawing: Techniques for Pencil Portraits by a person named Gabrielle Bricky. So one of the things that I really loved about this class was how comprehensive it was. She teaches you what materials you're going to need to start drawing, how to actually apply those materials, the techniques that she uses to draw portraits, and also a lot of art concepts that are necessary to be a great portrait artist, such as anatomy. I don't know, there was one part on there where she was talking about how to draw the mouth and what the Cupid's bow is, and being able to recognize anatomical landmarks like that is really important if you want to get good at drawing faces. So yeah, Skillshare overall is a really great learning tool. There aren't any ads on it. They're always adding new classes to kind of refresh and update their database and the wealth of information that's on there. And also it's pretty cheap. It's only $10 a month for an annual subscription. If anybody out there is interested in using Skillshare, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in my description of this video, and the first 1,000 subscribers that click on that link are going to get a free trial of premium membership. But yeah, go ahead and check that out. I think it's going to be really beneficial to a large amount of viewers that I have, because I know a lot of tattooers watch my channel, and I know a lot of people that are aspiring tattooers watch my channel as well. So that could be a really great way to improve your skill set in terms of being a creative professional, or even just somebody that wants to pick up a new hobby and learn something new. So hopefully you guys enjoy using it. Have a nice day.